Alright, hello everybody. Today we're going to be going over how I've been tracking along as a resto druid, and just kind of some tools I've been using to improve my gameplay. So the first one basically we're going to be going over is like essentially what I've kind of realized when playing resto druid. Some of the things that I'm not doing, obviously because I'm not that fond of the spec in a raid scenario. Just because I don't have the months of playtime on it. So there are a lot of gaps in my gameplay which you don't notice from playing. So this is an important thing that pretty much every healer should be doing, just to figure out where you can improve and where some of the gaps are. So if you go onto the Dreamgrove Discord in the pins, there are a whole lot of resources here available to you as a resto druid. There's some analyzers, there's some tools, some stat weight things. But what I'm going to be looking at today is this log analyzer by BlazyB. So I want to just be going over kind of my log on Thursday night. So this was like a couple days ago, and kind of show you like exactly what my problems are. So this obviously these log analyzers, they don't give you they won't give you the full story. They're only going to be taking essentially, they're just going to be looking at a whole bunch of conditions, being like you could have cast a Trank more, you could have done this more, blah 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 blah. So it doesn't actually like tell you the best way of playing. It just tells you where you can improve. So you can see I can cast Flourish more, I can cast Cenarian Ward more, I can cast Garnier more, I can use more Innovates, which maybe just depends where you're lining up your Innovates. Casted a lot of regrowths without clear casting, and this is on this log is just from when we were doing some Gul'dan prog. This is just our best attempt on that night, so I thought I'd bring it up and look it up. But see, the major things really that I found was that so the life bloom uptime is terrible, the Garnier usage and Flourish usage is pretty bad. So I'm going to show you exactly what I've done pretty much in compensation for this, in just kind of a way of improving how I play. Alright, so essentially like the first thing you'll notice is that what I've done is actually gone and chucked a Flourish and Garnier nice big tell me when thing in the middle of my screen. And this is pretty much just to, scream in my face essentially whenever Essence is up and whenever Flourish is up. You do use them. They're pretty short minor cooldowns, so you want to try to be finding points in the fight where you can use them consistently. So I've just kind of put them up there as a reminder, because no one's perfect. You do forget to do things, and at some point you can plan things out, but in a 10-minute fight you are gonna miss things at some point. So that is really one of the biggest things you can do. I've identified that Flourish and Essence of Garnier was some of the biggest things I could do to improve how I'm actually playing. So that's what I've essentially done, is made sure that they're actually visible to use. The next thing you'll notice that I've done is with the life bloom tracker. So I've got this big red life bloom thing that comes up in the middle of my screen when my life bloom expires, and that's again pretty much to prompt me to use life bloom. So there's some 3 super simple things I did before our raid tonight, which you'll find that really helped my gameplay. And they might even though that the little tracker thing I have on the side does track them or whatnot, it's just, it wasn't something that I was paying attention to when I had it before, and now I've just kind of made them more emphasized, and just kind of puts it in my face essentially. Say use this ability, it's up. Right now you can see it's like use life bloom, so I use life bloom. So that's really a super simple way on how to actually improve. Now when we're actually going over some improvements for how I'm actually playing my druid, there were a couple things that I was doing on Gul'dan specifically, and I want to actually kind of go over them, because I think they're really quite helpful for pretty much everybody. There's some really simple things you can be doing essentially to be min-maxing how you're actually playing. So the first thing you can see is what I'm doing is I'm applying rejuves to people in groups 3 and 4, and this is specifically because they are the ranged player. Now, as I said in my reasons for switching to a druid, this was primarily because our raid comp actually lacked ranged healing. So, you know, healing targets at range. The melee don't need to get much healing. So what I do, you know, it's a little bit OCD, but it's definitely for a good reason, is that I set up the groups. So we have groups 3 and 4 are always essentially going to be people at ranged. So I know when things like empowered Hellfires are coming out, that they're going to be doing the most damage to people at range. So when I'm going to be preemptively casting rejuves on them, I know that they're always going to be the people in group 2 and 4, so they're super easy to find. So I can literally just go from left to right and making sure I put rejuves on them before the mechanics happen. And, you know, then when the mechanics actually hit, I'm preemptive to my healing. Healing's on the right targets. I know who I have to heal between each empowered Doomfire. It just simplifies the whole thought process of what you have to do significantly. And you'll notice the same thing for the rogues in this phase now as well. Both the rogues and the tanks will essentially be in group 1, and so I know in this phase of the fight that I will have to be essentially trying to keep up as many rejuves on the 2 tanks and the 2 rogues. And so you'll see me constantly throughout the fight popping, you know, rejuves and regrowths, and, you know, sometimes I even life bloom the rogues just to get out some healing. And that's, you know, that's essentially another super easy thing you can do just to, you know, help yourself out when it comes to what you're doing. So I would probably go over I'll make a video specifically on, you know, at what points in the fight I use what cooldowns and whatnot on Gul'dan. But, you know, when looking forward, you know, what are some things I can still improve? There's a lot of things like using Flourish with Cenarian Wood. That's probably a big thing I can improve on. Another big thing I can improve on is you see I don't really use Swift Men like at all, and that's more so. I find I do it in PvP too. I just kind of don't use Swift Mend, and that's just because I probably should be tracking that ability too. But it's kind of one of those things where, because we play with 2 Holy Paladins, you'll see in a situation here, it's like, you know, Swift Mend. You know, I'd be better off casting Wild Growths, maybe Swiftmend. I mean, that's just kind of making excuses, but I should be using Swiftmend because it is a very, it does a lot of healing for the mana it costs. It's just not preemptive, and it's just, yeah, I'm basically just a noob and don't use Swiftmend. So that, you know, that's essentially something I can as well look at into, you know, adding to my little bar is, you know, maybe putting Swiftmend in there, or maybe emphasizing Swiftmend a little bit more up, you know, dragging it up where Cenarian Wood is, for example. So, you know, that's again some minor things I can do just to, you know, improve my usage of my abilities, which, you know, it's the thing is, like, it's really kind of interesting about healing is that, you know, even though, like, I might quite literally just not be using some abilities that might be my most mana efficient abilities or whatnot, you know, you can still do very good healing. So even though you'll see that, you know, I'm significantly ahead of the healing, I think, throughout this entire phase, that I'm essentially doing like 1,000,000 HPS throughout the entire thing, you know, while you might think I'm doing really well, you know, from an experienced, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of experienced druids who look at what I'm doing and, you know, think, you know, it's filled with 1,000,000 mistakes. So, like, irrespective of what HPS I'm doing, you know, there's still a significant amount of improvements to be made, and I think it's something that a lot of people look over, that, you know, essentially there's always going to be parts where you can improve. There's always going to be you know, things you're doing wrong that you might just not even know about. You know, for example, I had no idea that my life bloom uptime was so bad, because, you know, I was kind of just looking at the tank. If my life bloom wasn't on the tank, I'd be applying it to the tank, but I wouldn't prioritize it. But, you know, it is a very big part to my healing, and it's a very big part to essentially the tank healing, because I do wear the life bloom belt or whatever. I think in this pool as well, like the life bloom belt did like 8% on my healing, which is a rather large amount for just being on a legendary. And that is generally directed into a priority target to be healed, so either a tank or a rogue. So anyway, this is just a wipe and cooldown, so I won't finish it. But there's some food for thought. You can see that I'm doing 930k HPS, but there are still a whole bunch of gaps in my gameplay, and there's still a whole bunch of areas where I can improve. And basically what I'm trying to get across from this is, no matter how good you think you are, there's it's always a trap to think you're perfect. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.